want you to imagine that it's February 19th, 2016, and you are in a raft pulling into this beautiful grotto in Colombia, South America. Yes, right? The sky is blue, the water is crystal clear, and everywhere you look are these majestic cliffs and mountains and trees. It is idyllic. Now, in one of the rafts, next to you in the very front, is this beautiful young woman with this smile that just lights up the universe. Now, as irony tends to happen, she is the daredevil in the group. In fact, when your boats pull up to the cliff, boosh, she is in the water and already swimming up that very precarious cliff to climb up and get to the ledge, where what do you think she's going to do? Oh yes, so she's starting up this precarious ledge. This what? Precarious ledge, right? Climbing bit by bit up this ledge, and now everybody has to jump out and follow her. So yes, what do you think she did? She jumped in the water. So as soon as her head bops back up, she says, "Jump, this is freaking awesome." So believe it or not, every single one of you and the tourists, even the ones who consider themselves terrified of heights, take that plunge. Well, once you've done it once, you kind of want to do it again, don't you? So everyone began this really fast swim back to the ledge to start climbing up and up again. This is what it felt like to be truly alive, pure bliss. Until, pop, just like that, it wasn't. Because you see, in that moment, in the midst of all that fun, one single boulder broke off the side of that mountain and came plummeting down toward this group of tourists. What moments before had been calm broke into total chaos as everyone scrambled to get out of the way of this falling boulder. Fortunately, everyone made it to safety, except for one, that beautiful young woman who had been the daredevil. And everyone else watched in horror as this terrible rock made a direct hit right in the middle of her forehead and knocked her off the cliff onto the rocks below. In case you haven't guessed, that beautiful young girl was my daughter, Schuyler, and that video here was literally taken minutes before the boulder fell. However, at 3:15 in the afternoon, the phone rang, and it was this young woman, Dana, saying, "I don't know how to tell you this, but Schuyler's been in a terrible accident." And of course, first words out of my mouth were, "Is she okay?" What I learned in that next moment is sometimes the lack of words says more than any words that someone could share with you. All I heard was a pause and a sigh. And I will tell you, in that moment, I will be very transparent and vulnerable, and I will tell you, do you know what the first thought was? I'm not worthy of this. I'm not a good enough mom to be this. She deserves someone so much better. I have no idea what to do. In fact, I don't even know if I have enough money to give her what she needs right now. Why did she end up with me? Now I can tell you that's a really horrible thing to be your first thought, other than, of course, hoping that everything is okay for your daughter. So what I learned was that this young woman had no idea where they were, other than Columbia. They had somehow managed to find a hospital that had an ICU, because not all of them in Columbia do, and that the doctors were working tirelessly to at least keep my daughter alive so I could come down and make it there in time to be able to say a final goodbye. So there I was on this plane with my other daughter. My son was staying stateside. And I don't have to probably explain that I was in a turbulence of just about every negative emotion you can possibly imagine. Anger, grief, despair, rage. Why frickin' us? What did we do? Weren't we good enough? Why pick on us? But what I had to come to realize is that by far, the worst emotion that I was feeling in that moment was feeling powerless to help my daughter. And yet, I thought about this. So that boulder had cracked open my daughter's skull, exposing the brain, crushed her lungs, fractured her spine, fractured both scapula, snapped her right thigh, and pulverized her left ankle. I learned later that 4 of the injuries that she had were almost always fatal, individually. Forget about when you put all 4 of them together. So it was a formidable, epic boulder that this medical team was facing. And so I realized that ironically, all of the terrible things that I had lived through before, I'd been in an abusive marriage, you name it. I'd lived in financial terror. I had practiced at being resilient. So what it had done, though, is caused me to study. How do those human beings who face these insurmountable challenges and emerge as bigger, bolder versions of themselves, how do they do it? And in every single case, it was the inner game. And so I began studying and studying and studying. So now I had a choice to make. I realized there had to be a way to get my power back, because of everything my daughter needed, she didn't need me to be the second victim to this boulder. She needed me to discover what that epic version of myself could look like, even if I didn't know if I'd ever seen that version of myself before. That's one thing I could give her. But it would take me being proactive, and I had to toss aside blame. And that includes blame of that frickin' boulder. Why did I have to toss aside blame? Because here's one thing that boulder taught me, is that when we blame, when we talk about our reasons and we refuse to forgive, which can feel pretty freaking impossible at times, what we are saying to ourselves, to the universe, if you're religious, to God, you're saying, this thing, this person, this experience, I'm going to give the honor, of having so much power over me and my destiny that I promise I will never let this wound heal. Never. So, was I going to let this boulder not only rob me of this, but rob her legacy? Was I going to give this boulder the power to make me go forward in my life, defining myself primarily as the mother of a child who'd been tragically killed by a boulder? Not on my watch. The other option was to say, I can step forward. I can carry on this legacy. I can take this torch if need be, if that is our destiny, and I will step forward eternally as the mother of a child who in just 22 years made a powerful, positive impact on this planet. Do I hear a booyah? Booyah.